Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another day as we dive into God's Word together. And I'm standing right across the pond here from Bardenay Restaurant in Eagle. And it's cool to see some people sitting out on the patio, seeing some people inside the restaurant. How cool to be able to, go to restaurants and eat food again. That's a good thing that I'm excited about as our state and our society reopens. But when you think about going out for a meal to a nicer restaurant, you're going to sit down. What would you rather be? Would you rather be eating at the restaurant, or would you rather be a server at the restaurant? I think probably the gut reaction from all of us is, yeah, I'd rather be eating and being served. Well, when Jesus talks about real greatness, he tells us actually it should be the other way around. And let's talk about that today on Revival from the Bible. So yes, I think we all would rather go to the nice restaurant and sit down and be served and enjoy a nice meal instead of be the person, lifting trays and carrying dishes and looking at all the food without just sitting down and relaxing and enjoying it themselves. And this whole scenario reminds me of our reading today from Mark chapter 10, starting in verse 35, where James and John, they come and they say, hey, teacher, we want you to do us a favor. And they ask to sit on his right hand and his left hand in glory. They want the most exalted seats at the table. And Jesus has an interesting response, but he ends the response by saying, the Gentiles, they lord authority over people. That's not how it's supposed to be among my people. If anyone wants to be great among you, let him be his servant, and whoever would be first should be the slave of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. And that idea of giving his life as a ransom for many connects with something Jesus talked about earlier when he asked them, are you able to drink the cup that I drink? And they're like, yeah, we're able. Well, the cup he's talking about is really the cup of suffering that he is going to endure through his death on the cross. He's saying, oh, you want glory, right? Well, are you ready to suffer? That's what he says. And he's saying, guys, it's not about being served. The path to greatness, the great person isn't the one sitting at the head of the table enjoying all the food. The great person is the one seeking to serve. And obviously Jesus illustrates that so well when he washes his disciples' feet in John chapter 13. So Jesus models this, but I think we need to watch how we think about greatness because it's so natural. Whether it's our flesh or our culture, it's so natural. We want to be the ones sitting at the table receiving. When Jesus is saying no, he wants us to be the ones serving. And so I'm not literally saying, hey, go offer your services to Bardenay for an evening as a server instead of going and enjoying a good meal. That's not what I'm saying. But here's some things I want you to think about. Think about your home. Think about your church. And then, think about your community, which I guess for a lot of people, maybe the first thing you should think of there is your workplace. All of those places. Are you walking into home, dads? Are you walking into home every day saying, I am the king of the castle. I'm going to plop my feet up. Children, take off my shoes. Wife, bring me something to drink. Is that your attitude, or is it, how can I serve my wife? How can I serve my kids? Moms, are you thinking that same way, and even just joyful in, hey, I'm going to serve my kids, especially, moms with young kids where you're not exactly getting a lot of accolades from them in response? Know that what you're expressing is something that Jesus says, hey, that's true greatness. Think about it in church. Is it just, hey, I expect somebody to cater to me and to serve my needs, or are you thinking, hey, how can I love somebody else? How can I support somebody else? And same with your workplace. Christians, let's be the ones in the offices of the Treasure Valley, or whether you're working remotely or whatever, that's focused, hey, how can I serve somebody else? How can I help them? And even, I think, as Christians, even when you are a boss or a manager, obviously there's authority and leadership that you have to bring to the table. But are you also showing that attitude of service and love for others? And now this connects even with one other passage that we read today as we finish 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Because you remember, he's talking about this whole situation with meat sacrificed to idols and how should we respond to that, and people that are going to want to, hey, no, it's okay for me to do this, right? And in verse 23, he says, all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful, but not all things build up. Let no one seek his own good, but the good of his neighbor, right? And he's saying, hey, there's some things you might be able to say, hey, no, I can do this. And he might say, you know what, you're right. You can do whatever this is that you're thinking of. Maybe you think of some gray area in the Christian life now. Hey, you're right, you can do it. It's not a sinful thing to do. But are you thinking more about your own good or more about the good of your neighbor? So let's run with what Jesus is telling us today. Let's seek to be servants. Maybe not literally at a restaurant, and hey, maybe you'll go to a restaurant this weekend and enjoy being able to sit there and eat food again. But even as you do, I want you thinking about your home, your church, your community, your workplace, and how you can follow the example of service that Jesus gave to us. So think about that today, and we'll see you tomorrow, whether online or in person, for church, and then next week for Revival from the Bible.